Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Le Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Le Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. A Microsoft-linked global tech outage disrupts operations in multiple industries, with airlines halting flights and banking, healthcare and TV broadcast networks hit. A long-range Iranian-made drone hits the center of Tel Aviv in an attack claimed by the Houthis. 1 killed and 4 others wounded. Reports say Joe Biden is open to hearing arguments that he should step aside as the Democratic presidential candidate in the 2024 race, as heavyweights Obama and Nancy Pelosi intervene. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrives at the Downing Street to meet UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his top ministers, as Kiev pushes the West for additional air defences. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa opens the new parliament with promises on growth, the revival of economy, job creation and poverty reduction. Hello and welcome. Our top focus remains on Kenya. While anti-government protesters are standing up against the authorities, they have now received a crucial court backing. A Kenyan court has suspended a police ban on protests in Nairobi and surrounding areas. The Nairobi High Court issued a conservatory order against the ban, pending a final ruling on the case. The court said it will hold another hearing on the 29th of July. The ban was put in place by the Kenyan Police on Wednesday, citing that the protests had been infiltrated by criminals. The police said that no protests will be allowed in Nairobi Business District and surroundings to ensure public safety. The area has been the epicentre of the anti-government demonstrations that began last month. The youth-led protests started as rallies against the now scrapped proposed tax hikes, but they have now snowballed into a mass campaign against President William Ruto and his administration. The protests took a chaotic and deadly turn, particularly on the 25th of June, when protesters stormed Parliament and police fired live bullets at demonstrators. As per the rights groups, a total of 50 people have been killed and 413 injured since the demonstrations began. While the Kenyan police have been accused of rights abuses and using excessive force against the protesters. The government has tried to quell the anger by listening to some of the protesters' demands, not just scrapping the tax hikes, but President Ruto has fired the entire cabinet. He has also planned Ruto's multi-sectoral talks for this week to address the protesters' grievances. But protesters have rejected participation, while they have continued their calls to gather in the streets. On Thursday, some of them called for people to gather with their camping gear to occupy a park adjacent to the Nairobi city centre. Protesters say that they want Ruto to resign and are calling for reforms to clean up corruption and address poor governance. So while the authorities are attempting to stop the protests, courts have allowed people to demonstrate and the public anger does not seem to die down. It is still to be seen how long it will take for the chaos to retreat from Kenyan streets. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Macharia Munene, a political analyst. He is also a professor of history and international relations at the United States International University, Africa. He joins us live from Nairobi. Thank you for being with us, Professor.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Now, the court has overturned the order by Ruto, the High Court, stating that citizens have a right to demonstrate peacefully, leading to the suspension of the ban. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the courts have done the right thing. It was expected that they will do that. What is interesting is when the police issued the ban, the demonstrators generally kind of looked at it and they did the normal things. Their supporters went to court and pointed out that it was unconstitutional, that the police commissioner or inspector general has no power to issue such bans constitutionally. So it was expected that the court, once it hears the evidence, would overturn the whole thing because it would be an infringement of fundamental rights of people to assemble peaceably. And although the attempted explanations were sounding interesting, they were not convincing enough to permit infringement on fundamental rights. So the courts did what was expected.
Absolutely. And yeah. And the police put this ban in place, saying that it was to ensure public safety. Did they have to go as far as putting a ban on demonstrations? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the police were looking, not just the police, but the entire government system is looking for a way of diffusing the whole thing. And different tactics being applied. And this was one of them, to say, you started where you've been infiltrated by goons, which is true. There have been some hoodlums, and therefore it's your interest we are trying to look after. It was a way of government trying to diffuse the whole thing in the hope that if people are told not to demonstrate, then it will peter out. Unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case because the argument does not seem to work out very well. There have been claims that some of these goons are sponsored by some politicians because what has happened with the time is that the politicians are very unhappy because they are not responsible for this turnout of demonstration. The magnitude of it is revolutionary in itself. Attitude, it's an attitude thing as opposed to simply turning out. And the politicians who like to get credit for a lot of things, they are not getting credit for this. Instead, some of them are suspected of having some strange behavior.
Right. And the protesters are calling for Ruto to resign. These protests have been the biggest challenge to Ruto during his tenure so far. What do you make of the current political crisis in Kenya?
Well, it's likely to stay for some time. It's not going to end tomorrow. Well, the protesters seem to score some points. They did manage to get not only the removal of the offending finance bill, but the resolution of the cabinet was one of the things that could be said to have been because of their activities. But today, the president appointed half of the former cabinet, and the composition leaves something to be desired because it returned at least 5 of those who had officially been dismissed, and then the others are new faces, so we are told. So it's likely to go on for some time, and it's a kind of a test of will from both sides to see who will blink faster than the other. There is an attempt by the president to see whether the opposition can be persuaded to join his government in the hope that it will help to lower the temperatures. But it's a game of wit, strategies, and see who blinks first. But yes, there is increasing demand that not only the president, but also the entire parliament should be dissolved so that the country can start afresh. But that will require a lot of strategies and logistical analysis. But there is that desire by the youth, because they are the ones driving this thing, not the politicians. And they seem to be well equipped in terms of the mind. It's a revolution of attitude rather than material revolution. And that one is very difficult to deal with when the revolution is of the mind. And so the government has a problem dealing with this new phenomenon.
Absolutely, Professor. Yeah. Professor, thank you for being with us on Firstpost Africa and sharing your valued insights on the situation in Kenya.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, Namibia has refused to extend the visa for a Ugandan king who has been getting medical treatment in the country since April. We're talking about King Mutebi, the second of the Ugandan Kingdom, which is the largest traditional kingdom in East Africa and consists of Uganda's central region, including the capital, Kampala. Now he has been receiving treatment in Namibia for an undisclosed condition. But Namibia says it cannot allow the Ugandan king to extend his stay. Its authorities have reportedly been miffed over protests by Ugandan activists at several Namibian diplomatic missions. Namibia says its diplomatic officials were being harassed regarding the king's stay. But why were the Ugandan activists protesting against Namibia, a country that was offering medical treatment to one of its most influential people? It's because they feared their king had been kidnapped. In May, there were protests at the Namibian High Commission in the UK. Ugandan protesters have been demanding transparency over the king's extended stay. They want details of the king's whereabouts to be made public. The Namibian government then reached out to the Ugandan Kingdom. Authorities just 2 weeks ago, Uganda had traditional chiefs travel to Namibia to check on the king. But this sparked diplomatic concerns between Uganda and Namibia. Why? Because the visit by Uganda traditional chiefs was kept a secret. Neither the kingdom nor the Ugandan government were informed. It drew rebuke from Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni. He said the series of events were an embarrassment for the entire country. Now, fears over the Uganda king's kidnapping surfaced despite his address in a pre-recorded video, where he spoke of his improving health and assured people that he would soon return. Well, now he's left with no choice. Namibia says it is just acting according to rules, where a foreign national who has stayed for 90 days has to return to their country. Namibia also said it is not interested in this kind of bad publicity. Namibia's foreign minister said since the Ugandan king came to the country, there has been an influx of people from Uganda. So Namibia has now asked Uganda to respect its position, and Kampala has no option but to agree. Shifting focus to Mozambique, former finance minister of the southern African nation, Manuel Chang, is facing a trial in the US over the infamous Tuna bond scandal. The corruption scandal that emerged in 2016 led to a massive economic collapse in the nation. Chang is charged with taking bribes to commit his country secretly to huge loans that prosecutors say were looted. Between 2013 and 2014, 3 Mozambican state-owned companies took over $2 billion in loans. This money came from the global investment bank Credit Suisse and the Russian bank VTB, among others. Now, these funds were meant to finance Mozambique's maritime surveillance, tuna fishing and shipyard projects. However, the projects never materialized. It was revealed that the debts were concealed from the public and the international community, with finances a big part of the Mozambican national budget. However, the hidden debts were uncovered in 2016. Prosecutors say that huge chunks of the loan proceeds went as bribes and kickbacks to bankers and government officials. It is believed that around $7 million went to Chang himself, who has been accused of signing off the funds during his term and not disclosing them. Now, the US has indicted him for being implicit in the looting of funds that was donated by the US investors. However, Chang denies any wrongdoing. His defense lawyer has argued that there is no evidence that Chang agreed to take payoffs or received any money, and that he signed the guarantees because that's what his government wanted him to do. Already, 11 officials, including the son of Mozambique's ex-president Armando Guebuza, has been convicted of embezzlement and money laundering as a part of the same scheme. Now, when this fraud surfaced, it shook the Mozambique economy. Before the emergence of the $2 billion debt, Mozambique was one of the world's 10 fastest-growing economies for 2 decades. And after the scandal emerged, the country's growth stagnated, the currency lost a third of its value, inflation surged, and foreign donors pulled out. Now it is one of the 10 countries with the lowest GDP per capita. Experts estimate that the crisis ultimately cost Mozambique around $11 billion, or around 60% of its current GDP. Mozambique's government has reached out-of-court agreements with creditors in an attempt to pay down some of the debt. Last year, it paid $142 million back to Credit Suisse to cover original loans of about $522 million from the Switzerland-based banking giant. Mozambique also recently reached an agreement on a $220 million settlement with Russia's VTB Bank and Portugal's BCP Bank. Apart from the US, the scandal has led to court action in Africa and Europe as well. Manuel Chang was arrested in South Africa in 2018, shortly before the US indictment became public. Now, after years of fighting extradition from South Africa, he was brought to the US last year. His lawyers tried to get the case thrown out. They have argued that Chang is immune from prosecution as a former foreign official. However, the US judges have turned them down. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Our story today is from Nigeria. In the face of incredible odds, badminton star Anulopo has scripted history by becoming the first Nigerian to qualify for the Olympics for 2 consecutive games. The 4-time African champion is now eyeing a gold at the 2024 Paris Olympics and aims to inspire Africa like never before. Our next report gets you more.
In the vibrant city of Lagos, where the air is thick with dreams and determination, one name has become synonymous with excellence: Anuoluwapo Juwon Opeori. His journey is a tale of resilience and unyielding ambition. As Nigeria's undisputed champion and Africa's top badminton player, Opeori is now on the brink of making history. He has secured his spot at the prestigious Paris 2024 Olympics, making him the first Nigerian badminton player to qualify for 2 consecutive Olympic Games. However, the path to this pinnacle was not smooth. It was paved with numerous challenges and setbacks, demanding Opeori to participate in countless matches to garner enough points for Olympic qualification. His journey to badminton stardom did not come on a platter either. It was forged in the crucible of relentless effort and unwavering determination. Opeori's journey began with his brother and coach Funsho Opeori. From a young age, his raw talent and burning desire to succeed set him apart. Together, the brothers dedicated themselves to the sport, training with an intensity that reflected their shared ambition. Opeori's aggressive style and powerful smashes soon began to dominate the African badminton scene, earning him recognition and respect. Despite his expanding trophy cabinet, Opeori remains grounded, driven by a deeper purpose. His story is a vivid illustration that success is attainable regardless of one's background or origin. With the Paris Olympics on the horizon, Opeyori has intensified his training regime. He blends local practices of running and strength training with advanced techniques learned abroad. The Badminton Federation of Nigeria is committed to provide him with the necessary support and resources. Opeyori will begin his historic quest at the Paris 2024 Olympics in Group N. He will face Li Shifeng of China and Tobias Konesi of Switzerland. And in the face of immense expectations, he remains unfazed. He knows that his opponents will be formidable, each bringing their unique skills to the court. So as the sun sets over Lagos, casting a golden glow on the bustling city, Opeyori trains tirelessly, his eyes set on the Olympic stage.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again on Monday at the same time. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend and goodbye.